Hello and welcome. My name is Kathleen Miner, founder of Hopefull Handbags, global nonprofit, and I am here talking to an amazing person and author in our book called Handbags. And it is going to be such an amazing book. I've read these stories. I've read your story, Annette, and I want to introduce Annette Cashell. And just tell us a little bit about, we're going to talk about some questions that I have from reading your story. I'm very intrigued by your story. But I want to start out by saying something that Annette says, which is exercise is optional, but movement is essential. And as I've gotten older, and I like to say wiser, can I not just really say hello? And I believe this now more than I ever have, probably in the past 10 years. So true. So welcome, Annette.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's great to be here.
Very nice to have you. So let's just dive right in. I have a question for you because after reading your story, I'd like for you to share the moment when you realized that your condition was pretty severe and they had suggested, right, that you have a neck fusion operation. How did you feel about that? Like, how did that impact you emotionally, mentally, and just like, what were the thoughts that went around in your head?
I think first off, I was just in shock.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I'd given up my corporate job and I'd become a Pilates teacher because I had had back problems and I got rid of the back problems through Pilates. And I was exercising a lot and I was being active and I thought I had no worries. And I couldn't understand why I kept getting this pain in my neck and down my arm. It was excruciating pain. So when I ended up at the consultant's office and they mentioned this idea of a neck fusion operation, I was really shocked. I mean, actually, I found it difficult to find my way out of the building afterwards because I just thought they were going to say you have some physio exercises to do or you might have an injection. To be faced with this idea of somebody putting metal in my neck and restricting my movement was terrifying, especially as a Pilates teacher, because I felt it would
Mm.
affect my ability to teach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't even imagine going in just thinking I'm going to get an injection and then coming out because you're just going in for relief. I just want relief because I'm going to get through this. I've had aches and pains before. Like, is that kind of what you were thinking? Like, I've had aches and pains before. This is way worse, but maybe I'll get an injection and I'll just move on and we'll work our way through this.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be a bit serious because the pain had been going on for so long, and even though I was on pretty hardcore medication, it made absolutely no difference. So they actually had me on epilepsy medication, which made no difference. I don't have epilepsy, and I'd been to a few consultants, so I knew, it might be maybe a small intervention, but I certainly didn't
Mm.
expect something like a metal fusion, which actually stops your movement. I mean, it actually, limits your movement in your neck. And also, when they tell you that, it's kind of, well, it won't necessarily solve the issue, but we'll give it a go. And that really stopped me in my tracks. Well, I'm not ready for
Right,
that. I'm not that desperate.
right. I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
So, what was there fear and doubt during the journey before you discovered movement as a solution? So can you
Yeah.
like tell us kind of how you got there of realizing that movement could really help this?
Right. So with this diagnosis and my point blank refusal to do it, I started to research why I was having all this pain in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because on paper, I felt I was doing everything right. I'd given up my desk job. I was a Pilates teacher. I wasn't particularly underweight or overweight. I didn't feel particularly stressed. I couldn't figure it out. I felt I was doing everything right. So when I
Mm-hmm.
researched and I realized why I was getting this chronic pain, it was really the state of hypervigilance that I was in because of the pain. And that's quite normal when you develop chronic pain. You get into a state of being very sensitive to pain. You're kind of looking out for it all the time. You wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is it still there? Your whole brain is
Mm-hmm.
consumed with this and trying to solve it. It's very frustrating. But you get into the state of hypervigilance, a bit like an overactive burglar system that reacts to the slightest puff of wind. Yeah, when all it should only
Mm-hmm.
react, the burglar comes in. So when I realized that, and I realized, well, I can actually do something to work on that through meditation or release or fascial rolling, which is something I stumbled upon. Then I started to feel relief. And yeah, it just opened a whole other door to me that didn't realize this was possible, and I didn't realize how much this chronic kind of stress was had a part in my chronic pain.
So can you just explain to me a little bit about when you say you talk about the soft roll, right?
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
soft, okay, and then the fascia.
Hmm.
Like I'm trying to visualize this.
Hmm.
Can you just
Sure.
help us out here with that?
Yeah, of course. So fascia is a real thing. It's a physical thing in your body.
Okay.
It's not something woo-woo like somebody accused me of. It's a definite physical thing. So you have your bones and you have your muscles and then you have your fascia. And your fascia kind of holds it all together. So if you
Mhm.
order something online and it arrives in a box and there's polystyrene kind of, little the peanuts, think
Yeah,
of it
yeah.
a bit like peanuts. The peanuts are kind of holding everything in shape.
Okay.
And in the past, it was thought of basically like a packaging material. It wasn't really important. It was in the body to help you have a shape. But now they realize only in the last about 15 years that actually fascia plays a huge role in pain because there are a lot of pain sensors in fascia, almost as many as in
Hmm.
skin. And so if you're suffering from chronic pain, it's a good idea to kind of look at that aspect of it. And the way to work on fascia is actually through soft rolling, which is really like soft massage. You can get a soft massage, or you can use like soft massage tools to basically roll. Like you'll see rollers in the gym, which are kind of rock hard, about a meter long. You'll see people lying in
I
them.
have those. I've got them.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Okay.
But they're hard. So your fascia doesn't really like hard. And often it can go into almost a reaction, even more of a hypervigilant state when you do too much of the hard rolling. Whereas the
Okay.
soft rolling, your nervous system relaxes. And once your nervous system relaxes, you can get out of fight or flight into rest and digest, which is huge if you have pain.
That makes total sense. I mean, as you're explaining this to me and I'm visualizing all
Mm.
this. So a soft roller, is it like the hard rollers? It's just soft?
Exactly. It's exactly the same size. It's just the density is less dense. So when you lie in it, it's more comfortable. It puts less pressure on your body. So it's much more comfortable. And if you're sensitive to pain, it allows you to relax while using, whatever roller. There are lots of other tools like little peanut shaped rolls and little spiky balls and stuff. You can spend a whole
Right.
whole program just on that. But the basic kind of introduction roller would be the soft roller. Yeah.
So you're talking about movement, the fascia, how and that's really making sense to me. And now you talk about the exercise. So what is the difference in your mind? Because some people think, well, I got exercise, 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 but is movement, what's the difference in your mind between movement and exercise and how you've seen that it's helped you and your clients?
Sure. I think the easiest way to understand it is like bed rest. Like everybody knows that if somebody is confined to the bed for a couple of
Mhm.
weeks, their most muscles are going to waste away, and it's not good to be
Right.
bedridden. And it's not because they stopped going to the gym. They're in bed for 2 weeks. It's because they stopped moving. It's the movement that your body needs. Your body needs constant input to kind of stimulate all the systems in your body. Exercise is kind of a modern construct that we developed in the last 100 years or so when we stopped having to physically move through our day to get stuff done.
Mhm.
Now we do exercise kind of 1 hour a day if you're lucky, because we're busy doing other things.
Yeah.
And the idea was if you do an hour a day or half an hour a day, you kind of tick it off your list, and that's good. It's kind of the minimum you should do for your fitness, but it's not the minimum you should do for your health. And
Okay.
you, yeah, so say, I think the food analogy is good. So say you eat junk food all day, but in the evening you have a salad. The salad is very good to you, right? Very good for you, but it doesn't undo the junk. Yeah. And
Right.
from a food perspective, that makes total sense. But from a movement perspective, it's similar in that maybe you sit all day and do nothing all day, but then you do 1 hour intense exercise. That's still good for you, but it doesn't undo the lack of movement in the rest of the day. So they're really two separate things. And it sounds terrible. It sounds like you have to move all the time. You don't. Just getting up out of your chair every 20 minutes makes a difference. Getting the stairs instead of the lift or the elevator, and parking further away from your destination. These tiny things that we think
Mhm.
don't matter really matter because they're frequent and they really add up when you put them into an average day.
So when you went in and you thought, "Oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I can't have a life where I'm moving like this." Like, did you feel like your whole life was just kind of you were rethinking, "How am I going to make it through this?" Or
Yeah, I
Like
was a few days
how?
in shock. I was definitely in shock for a few days. I remember holding my neck kind of constantly. I felt like it was going to fall off like an orange on a toothpick. It was just
Mhm.
ridiculous, the amount of fear I had in my body. So it took a few days, guys, to kind of get through that. And then when I realized I didn't want to do this operation, well, then I went into research mode and, looked up everything that I could. That weekend, I actually happened to have a workshop on fascial rolling, soft rolling, which I'd never experienced before. So kind of universe or coincidence or whatever,
Mhm.
I was first introduced to that. And I still remember being in the class, lying on the roller, we're just doing breathing. And I'm thinking, this is a monumental waste of time. I'm going to come off this and nothing is going to change.
Right. Right.
Right. And I just kind of slid off the roller and I lay on the ground and yeah, my whole world just blew apart. I actually felt relief in my neck pain the first time in 18 months. And for me, that was like a chink of hope. I'm thinking, well, hang on, if I've only laid on this thing for 5 minutes and done a bit of rolling, if I really go down this rabbit hole, I could probably get long-term relief, which I did. But that first experience was incredible because it gives you that beacon of hope, and that's my message to people really. Yeah, to give it a try. I mean, I'm not necessarily going to, guarantee it's always going to work, but I just feel try every method that is out there. If it works for you, isn't that amazing?
It can't hurt. That's for darn
Right,
sure. It can really help.
right.
And
Yeah,
I totally agree. The speaking of hope, I mean, as the name Hopefull Handbags and why it has two L's in full because it's full of hope. Because really, that's what gets us to the next step in anything we're doing.
yeah,
Is to know, what, even if there's that little tiny glimpse, okay, I can hang on to that and I can go with it.
yeah. And I
And
think hearing stories, and that's why this book is so wonderful. What really helped me in those dark times was hearing about other inspiring stories, like hearing about other
mhm,
people who've gone through hard stuff and come out the other side. And it's very inspiring to hear that because the medical establishment, as fantastic as they are, they see all the bad studies. They only get the people in
yeah,
the door who are at the end,
yeah,
of their desperation. So
they're
they tend
hurt.
to,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they tend to err on the side of caution. They tend to be a little bit more negative, maybe more realistic, but you can't underestimate the power of inspiration and hope to get you through those tough times.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what advice would you give to people that are struggling with chronic pain right now and they might feel hesitant about, exploring some other methods, right? You know, because you've got the medical part of it. And what would your advice be to them?
Certainly, if you're open to this idea, I mean, it's such an easy way to see whether it makes a difference for you. It's not a medication, so there's no side effects. It's something you can learn to do yourself. So if you feel like it does have relief, you can actually use the method yourself and work away by yourself. So it's very empowering. I've had clients who've had histories of migraine, and when we work together, then it just goes. Like they just can't believe the relief. And then if it ever crops up again, they're empowered to use the tools to get rid of it and or maybe even stop it before it kind of escalates. So you become
Hmm.
very body aware as well, which is all part of the fascial work. It's not just reducing your pain level, it really heightens your sense of body awareness. It reduces your stress, it reduces your pain, and you feel really zen. Like people often feel like they're kind of floating out of the class at the end because it's so relaxing without meditating. So some people might be against meditation or don't get it or don't enjoy
Yeah.
it. This is a physical way to kind of get to the same state, but you're doing something. So if you're reluctant or don't enjoy meditating, this is a really kind of physical way to get there.
Yeah. I would think it'd be a little easier because for some people, me included, getting into a meditative state, even
Yeah.
though I don't find it as easy as some people say that it is, to be honest. But I could see where we're doing that. So, what is your latest project? What are you working on now? Because to me, it's amazing because you've done your own research and you've come up with what you're doing now. Literally saved, I would say, saved your life, right? Because if you had went down the other route, I'm not saying that medical intervention isn't sometimes needed because sometimes it is, but had
Yeah,
you
yeah,
went down that other route, your life right now would look
yeah,
totally different.
yeah,
So
definitely. Sorry, what was the question?
what yeah, I'm sorry. I started going on the what is your so because of all of that, now you're able where you are now, what other
Oh yeah,
projects do you have? What
oh
other
yes,
things do you have going on in the future and
sure.
now?
Yeah, so through the whole research and my whole experience, I realized that it was about movement, but it's about the holistic approach as well, which is why I've given myself the title Holistic Movement Coach. And that approach is the same. It really doesn't matter what problem you're dealing with. So for me, first it was low back pain, then it was chronic pain in my neck. Now I'm moving on to osteopenia, which is bone loss, because I developed some osteopenia and then I reversed it completely. And then it came back in my hips, which goes to prove that your bones are constantly evolving. But I really believe that the same method can be applied to anything, because you're looking at the whole body and you're bringing in movement and you're dealing with the mind part as well. You can't underestimate the emotional impact of being diagnosed with osteoporosis or osteopenia. I'm getting a lot of feedback from women on that. And stress is bad for your bones. So it's always the same solution, really, because we're living in a modern world that is pretty toxic for health. So so if we work on those toxic parts, usually you can allow your body to flourish. Give it space and time to try and heal itself to some extent. I think it's always worth a shot.
So you're located in Dublin.
That's right.
In Ireland. People that are seeing this are all over the world.
Yeah.
So do you do things online? Are there online classes? Tell us what you offer, or how they can not only get in touch with you, we'll have all that out there, but do you do things online where people could join in if they're not like in your town?
Absolutely. So I do a weekly soft rolling class that's specifically for, rolling and releasing. I have lots of mini courses. They're digital courses that you can work through by yourself on pelvic floor issues or bone loss or feet. Feet is a big thing. And then I have a small group coaching program for osteoporosis. And then I have a private one-to-one program for pain. I find pain is more of an individual approach. So it's best to do that one-on-one. But the bone loss can be done in a small group. So there's lots of offers. It's all online. I'm a big fan of tech. I think it's amazing that we can connect and disseminate this information. It's just amazing.
So your one-on-one offerings, what you're saying is if you're not in the town, you could still do those virtually with people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything is done online. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will tell you your story, I could feel it when I was reading it, because you wrote this really well too, just so you know. So everybody, make sure you check this out and get the book, and you will be inspired not only by Annette's, but as you said, Annette, all the other stories of you can come out on the other side of things. And because who listening to this has not had an issue with pain that you're like, why is this happening? I don't understand. And you can't always take away life stresses.
Right.
I mean, we can try to chill a little bit, but tomorrow we're going to wake up and we're going to still have to do stuff, and we still have to be around people and all of that kind of stuff, So I'm so glad that stuff's online. So share with us anything else you want to share before I let you go to get back on with your work.
Oh, sure. So if people are interested in kind of keeping up to date with what I do, they could sign up to my newsletter. I have two options on my website. One, you'll get kind of information about how to sit less, because that's a big contributor to pain. And the other one is 5 essential exercises for bone loss. So if that's more your interest, there's that as well. And there's lots of information in my newsletter. I love writing, and it's a weekly newsletter to keep you informed and inspired, because I think inspiration to move and knowledge how to move in the modern world is really important.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And you all also could go to the hopefullhandbags.org. That's hopeful with 2 L's, hopefullhandbags.org. Go to the book tab. And then when you see Annette's picture there, if you click that through, you'll go to her bio, and we'll have all this information there too. So you can just link right over to it. But thank you so much, Annette, for being with us today. You will be seeing and hearing much more from Annette. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day.
Thanks, Kathleen. Great to be here.
Thank you. Bye.